This was the scene that I filmed during one of our rehearsals, and I edited and sent it to our videographer to help him understand what we were looking for in the beginning. Hi, and welcome to this episode of Behind the Scenes of Making a Scene. So I recently started a small series that I'm hoping to expand, where I take a scene from a classic piece of literature that is in the public domain, and then we reenact that scene. We bring it to life. And hopefully this scene captures not only the spirit of the overall work and motivates people to go and investigate that work further by either reading it or engaging with it in film, but hopefully it will increase their appreciation for all of the effort that went into making that piece. So the first one I ever did was The Scarlet Letter.
The Scarlet Letter is his mark.
And recently we had the opportunity to do a scene from Little Women. If you haven't had an opportunity to go and watch that, I highly recommend you go and watch it. There will be a link in the description below. But yeah, here are some of the things that occurred behind the scenes of making that scene. So for starters, I have to highly recommend and compliment the work of our sound engineer and our videographer. They went over and above anything that was asked of them to really make sure that we got not only a good shot. For sure.
Let's, yeah, keep on going back. Why not? Keep going. Moderate speed this way. Yep, that's good right there. You're fine.
But at least some decent audio. I think it's important to talk about the weather. The day that we had set aside to film that worked with all of our schedules was on a Monday, and we were really hoping for good weather, but that's not at all what we got. We got rainy weather that was windy, and this really was the only day that we could do it all together. And so we kind of got to our place of location, and we were hoping that the sun would kind of shine through as we started, and it didn't. And so we were like, okay, well, we got to start filming. And so as we kind of started to progress in the filming process, we actually really liked the look of the stormy, rainy weather. And there were definitely moments where the sunlight came through and everything. But as we progressed, it was really interesting to note how we started to hope that the sun wouldn't shine through, because now we wanted at least some degree of consistency in the different shots and everything. But in the end, it ended up being a great experience. The area was definitely wet. And so as we were kind of walking through the grass and all of the different areas, it was definitely very wet. And surprisingly, when we wrapped up filming, the wettest part of both myself and Leah was our socks. Everything else seemed to kind of dry throughout the process, but that was definitely the wettest part, I think, by the end of it. You ready? Leah and I both had a really good experience with rehearsing the scene before we actually went to shoot it. And so I was kind of the one that because this was my project, I took the lead in kind of trying to organize this and everything. And I was like, if we're going to rehearse this, maybe we would have a good experience and it would kind of help get us in the mindset if we went out somewhere in nature and rehearsed it there. And so I picked a spot kind of in a woodsy area that we kind of went through our lines and we practiced kind of some of the different angles.
Rain or shine, and march before you playing, hail the conquering hero comes on a harp.
Where's the harp, Joe?
I forgot it. No, you must have a good long holiday.
I intend to.
No. Teddy. Teddy, please don't.
No, hear me out. And I was also playing around with some new piece of tech that I had gotten and everything, and so we were trying to experiment with that a little bit. But I think it really helped as we kind of experimented with some angles and definitely different places that we tried to. You're like, okay, well, maybe if we shot it from this angle, here's kind of what it might look like. Here, if we shot it from this angle, here's kind of what it might look like. Start it.
I never meant. Ah! We're gonna have to
shave it down.
Shave it down. Oh, quickly.
Sorry.
Okay.
Okay, good. All right. You ready?
Mm-hmm. No, Teddy. Please don't.
Joe, hear me out. Joe, we have to have it out. The sooner the better for the both of us.
Well, say what you like then. I'll listen.
I have loved you, Joe, ever since I've known you. I tried to Joe, hear me out. Joe, we must have it out. The sooner the better for the both of us.
Say what you like then. I'll listen.
I have loved you, Joe, ever since I met you. But it helped kind of get us in the mood and kind of think about the right way to present as we were going to reenact the scene. And go. Okay, now do it again. This time, I'm gonna just keep rolling. So this time, look, and then pause for a second, and kind of like, where is he? Kind of. Okay. All right. So hide.
Like a happy shriek or like a.
Like happy shriek. Yeah. Whenever you're ready. And so I definitely, after this experience, you know, and getting a wonderful compliment from Connor, our videographer, he wrote us in an email and he kind of expressed how impressed he was that we knew our lines and all of this. I think it really helped, and Leah and I both talked about this, it really helped that we had rehearsed the scene ahead of time before we actually got there to film. And so that's actually something I'm going to take with me moving in the future, is rehearsals do actually help when it comes time to film. Yes. And you gotta come right there. Yep. Like that? I think another thing that we can talk about is the fight scene. So we actually didn't originally plan on a fight scene. When I was, I should also mention that the dialogue that was used in this film was taken directly from the book, Louisa May Alcott's book. And so if you have an interest in reading it, I'm hoping to provide a link here below, but I highly recommend you go and read the book, because the dialogue from this scene was taken directly from the book. And we may have gotten a few words wrong here and there and everything that, you know, didn't match it word for word, but all of that was taken from the book. And so as I was kind of developing that into a script that we could then, you know, use to rehearse and practice and develop, there was this moment where Lee and I were discussing some blocking, and then, you know, I was like, maybe you can consider doing a headlock here or something, you know, because Joe and Lori, I mean, they're really close friends. And we toyed around with the idea that maybe they were very physical with one another and maybe even wrestled. And so as the suggestion of a headlock came out, then it erupted into this, well, maybe if, you know, it actually is a full blown wrestling match. You yield?
Okay, fine, yes.
What?
Yes, I yield.
You never give in that quickly.
Oh. Do you yield now? Oh, whoa! Hey, get off. Get off. Okay, fine. Put my legs down.
I give it.
Oh.
No.
Do you yield? Oh! Wait! No. Did you have to walrus?
You left me no choice.
Well, that means I'm getting better, right?
Unfortunately. And so as we were playing around with these different things, Leah actually asked if we could rehearse that and choreograph it, and actually, and I suggested, and I actually, one or both of us suggested recording it. And so we made a choreography, and then we, practiced that in the future every time we got together.
Yeah, your first shot, the shoulder.
The first time.
The first time, just the shoulder.
So the first time you're trying to lift me up, I won't go. So then you hop over here, pull me over, and then you're trying to cling. And I'm like, nope. And then that's when you get up.
Hey.
This is a great shot. And then just
I was actually trying to do some research. I'm like, is that historically inaccurate and everything? And actually, in my study, I found that wrestling was a popular form of entertainment during that time. Like, and not just men, it was a popular form of entertainment for some women. And so that was something else we kind of justified, was maybe what if we toyed around with the idea that Laurie, in his study as he was kind of going off to the university, what if he had seen some of these things, or what if he kind of had an interest in self-defense? What if perhaps there was a class that was offered at the university that taught you self-defense, and then Laurie maybe came home and taught some of that to Joe, or maybe Joe was also interested in or had read some of these newspaper articles about these, wrestlers and these popular forms of entertainment, and maybe they tried to mimic that, or they tried to actually, practice that on their own. And so, yeah, it just became this fun banter back and forth between me and her, where we were like, I think this feels right. Like, let's just go for it. And so, yeah, the fight scene was one of the more anticipated parts of this film that she and I both looked forward to. Now, of course, every fight scene, arguably has some degree of injury or other, and that actually was the case here. At one point when she hops over me, her boot either made contact with or kind of full-blown stepped on my popliteal fossa, the back of my knee. And this photo was taken a week or so after the actual filming had finished. And so you can see it kind of like when the injury was kind of fresh and everything. Like, it didn't stop me from working or walking or running or anything. And for the most part, you didn't even really notice it until I sat down at certain angles and my, knee was like pressed up against something. But yeah, when I first came home, I'm like, I think I got something here. It was kind of red and swollen a little bit, and then it just kind of bruised, and it's on the mend and everything. So actually, and this brings us to one of the more significant events that happened behind the scenes that is just a fun story. So, we started off filming the very first part of this video, which is, Joe is kind of running through the woods, and she's running from something or someone. And, we tried to make it look like there was maybe a slight hint of she was in danger or she was scared or anything. And then it just turns out to be a game that she and Laurie are playing. But we started off filming the different scenes where she was running. And as we filmed those different scenes, that kind of, takes its toll on the costume and everything. But then as we began the actual wrestling and the fight choreography and everything, at one point, Leah's skirt kind of came undone, and there were 3 hooks. And the first hook that was hooking the dress together kind of tore. And so then Leah was like, okay, I'm going to move it to the next hook. And then as we progressed with the fight choreography and everything, that hook also tore. And my wife was actually the one that made this skirt, this dress, and she did a wonderful job. And it looked awesome, and it was so fitting for the time period and everything. And she had done quite a bit of research into what are some accurate portrayals of dress from that time. And actually, I think I'm going to include a link of maybe one or two of the books that she was looking at that portray that here in below. So you can go check those out if you want. But yeah, as she was kind of going through and developing this skirt and everything, she made the skirt itself pretty durable, but those hooks kind of broke. And so there was one hook left, and it was really, really tight on Leah, and it was already tight due to the corset that she was wearing. And so we were like, and the goal was, when I left to film that morning, my wife had said that she was going to leave some clothespins with my stuff, which was awesome. But as I went to go and look for those clothespins, I couldn't find them anywhere. And it turns out they got left at home and weren't put in the car as we were leaving in the morning to go and film. So the clothespins didn't make it, and so I was looking around for anything and everything that we could potentially use to fix this skirt so that it would stay up on Leah for the rest of the shoot. And so Connor, our videographer, went to look in his stuff to see if he had anything, and he said in the past he has carried clothespins with him and anything else that might serve during a wardrobe malfunction of this similar degree. And as he was looking through his stuff, he's like, yeah, I think I left all that stuff home and everything. And as he was looking through his stuff, he's like, all I have is, there were two items that he mentioned. I don't remember the first item, but the second thing that he had was a zip tie. And so then I was like, and as we were discussing, we were like, maybe the zip tie might actually do the trick. And so once again, we were now looking for something that we could use to create a hole in the skirt or the dress. And Connor didn't have his pocket knife. I didn't have anything sharp that we could use to actually poke a hole in this durable skirt that my wife had created. And so we were looking around for anything that we could use. And then I think it was either Connor or Spencer, our sound guy. I think it was Connor, who suggested, he noticed that in this white barn that we were filming next to, there was one or two nails that were sticking out of the barn. And so I went and looked, and sure enough, we found a nail that we could pull out, and don't worry, we put the nail back after we were done. And Connor joked, he's like, well, this might work. It looks like there's a fine degree of tetanus on it, but this might be able to work to actually poke a hole in the skirt that we could use. And so I managed to get a hole through these two parts of the skirt, and then we managed to get the zip tie through both of those, and it lasted for the rest of the film. And so that was both like eye-opening and a life-changing moment, because I want to make sure I remember clothespins in the future, but I'm definitely converted to the idea of using zip ties to help with some of these wardrobe malfunctions. So I think it happened the way it was supposed to happen, because all of a sudden I want to use zip ties. And there were definitely some metaphors that were thrown out about why zip ties are very useful. Some of them, you had Leah who suggested this is why serial killers use zip ties and everything. And then Spencer was like, actually, they also use it in race cars and stuff like this. And all we could do was keep our mind fixed on the serial killer metaphor. So, but yeah. These were such wonderful experiences, and these kinds of experiences are definitely what make the filming process so much fun.
So now? What?
You'll be sorry someday, Joe. Whenever I'm filming something, I don't like to have a ton of rigidity, because some of the things that happen in the film that happen more spontaneously or that happen, either when we might normally say cut or everything. Some of those more spontaneous moments are often what lend to the best shots. So, for example, I had originally planned in my mind that I wanted to end the film, and like I said, this wasn't a hard plan, but it was one of the harder plans that I had in mind. And so I tried to be flexible, but I really wanted to end with this idea of Laurie is walking off and the camera is just kind of focused on him. And then it ends as he's walking off. But as they were filming some of the close-ups on Leah was just really in the moment. And as Laurie walked off, she was kind of feeling it and manifested this tremendous emotional frustration of Joe, who loves Laurie, doesn't want to lose this friendship, but is not feeling the same feelings that he is feeling. And so Connor kind of let the camera linger on her, and she was just giving us this beautiful performance.
Teddy! Teddy! Teddy!
And as we kind of lingered on there, the idea came that perhaps the final shot could be a close-up of the tree that they were having this conversation next to. Now, in a previous rehearsal, I actually went with Leah and we went and investigated some of this area where we were filming to see if we could maybe map out some potential areas for good shots that we could come and film at. And we settled on this tree because it had a nice flat surface and it wouldn't poke anybody, but it was just a beautiful spot. And when we were filming, and as we noticed, all of this magic that was happening around this spot, the tree kind of looks, it starts together at the bottom, and as it grows up, it gradually goes apart. Just like Laurie and Joe's relationship. They start so together, so in sync, so, there was just this beautiful togetherness that they had. And as the story progresses, they kind of grow apart and begin to take their own ways and everything. And that just became, as I was trying to, like I said, be flexible and everything, that idea came into my mind that perhaps that tree could serve as a metaphor for the growing apart relationship that they had. And Connor captured a beautiful shot with that I think just sums up very much what was happening there. And we had done all of this filming and everything. We had wrapped up. And once we were done and we were in the process of editing and everything, I finally found time with my wife to sit down and watch Hamnet. And I couldn't help but notice that one of the opening shots of the film was a very similar look to what we had going there. And so I think they were trying to capture the spot more so than the metaphor, but that just validated and cemented the idea that maybe we were onto something there. But yeah, so thank you so much for joining us with this episode. If you like and subscribe to this and maybe even share it, I'm hoping that we can do more of these in the future, because I started these to kind of maybe expand my reel for, applying for acting jobs and everything, and for the experience. And I'm like, okay, well, if I need a reel and if I need stuff that I need to add to my portfolio and everything, let's at least do stuff that I'm interested in. And I really love classic pieces and works and everything. And there's a lot of wonderful effort that went into making these. And so yes, please, if you liked this, please feel free to like, subscribe, and share. And I'm hoping to do more of these in the future. And so thank you so much for your time and attention, and we'll catch you next time.